Welcome, welcome. I'm Mary Langfield, and today our little chat is going to be about spring energy. Now, why do I want to talk about spring energy? First of all, there's like a huge excitement about spring. Now, for some of us who live in climates that aren't feeling very spring-like, if they're still covered with snow, you might be getting more of a sense of a feeling of heaviness. A lot of what I've been hearing, a lot of what I've been seeing, and raise your hand. Like, what has this season been feeling like for you? Right. I saw in our comments, we have people feeling really sleepy, people just feeling like they're going through some intense stuff. We have people who have been dealing with a cold, lots of mucus. And what I want to tell you is that a lot of this is definitely seasonal. But I want you to think of it differently than how we're sort of trained to think about it. So, seasonally, I want you to think about the energy of the season. Now, if we look at this, and I'm going to look at this through an Ayurvedic perspective, we are thinking about what does spring mean? So, spring means that we are in a building phase, building, building, building. And this means that the energies of earth and water are coming together and it's making mud. It's draining into the earth. Ideally, though, this drainage that's draining into the earth is so that our plants can grow, things can be green, everything can burst out in the summertime. But what does it mean energetically as us humans are dealing with it, especially if we are not living in alignment with nature, which many of us aren't? What does this mean? So think of it this way. Over the winter, we are still sort of in a hibernation phase. And all of a sudden, we get this heavy, like, energy of release. So if you can imagine, if there's all this ice everywhere and it starts to release and drip, there's all that excess water. That's like what our bodies are experiencing. Our bodies are experiencing kind of an excess overload. And when we think about the excess overload, which is also wonderful because it's going to nourish for times in the future. But in the interim, it can be really uncomfortable because some of the things that we already have a hard time with might get increased, right? So if we already have things like environmental allergies, things like that, you will see that your hay fever is worse or that your allergies seem worse during this time, or you might have more colds, more sinus infections. Maybe you're even experiencing a flu, maybe you have more headaches. That's one way in which you're seeing, okay, there is a seasonal shift happening and it can feel really bumpy at first. Okay. So the seasonal shift is happening. And what we notice is that because it can feel so heavy, because there's almost this feeling of things coming down on you to be melted, right? In a way, you are maybe feeling incapable of doing the things that you know would be so good for you. Maybe you are not able to get off the couch. Maybe you're feeling really inert, like you're not able to do things, can't get out of the house. Maybe you're sleeping all the time. Now, you very well may need more rest. But if you're not feeling well rested, then maybe it's just an overcompensation because of the energies. You're just sleeping more because it has the energy. So you want to think about this. So one of the things that's also going on with the spring energy, and feel free to type any comments, any questions, any thoughts, or if like I need to back up, you can always share that with me. But one of the things to think about here is when things start to get out of balance, especially during a seasonal transition such as this, our digestion can be one of the most impacted areas. If your digestion is impacted in some way, it's feeling out of balance. Maybe you're noticing that you're having more diarrhea, more constipation. You're just maybe very gassy, very bloated. When your digestion is out of whack, your mental space is out of whack. Many of you have probably heard of the fact that now science has caught up to what Ayurveda has always known. There's a gut brain connection. And so we want to make sure that we are doing things to help us ease ourselves through this time of transition instead of continuing to stay in a rut. Now, energetically speaking, this is kapha season. Kapha is this wonderful energy. It's the earth element and water element together. So we call this the kapha season. And people tend to have all of these doshas. They have all of these within their bodies. Some of us have more kapha than others. I have more kapha. Some people just who have more flesh have kapha. But having kapha energy is great. It helps us with endurance. It means we are strong. But and we have stamina to do things, even if we don't feel like it. But when we get inert, the heavy, strong, powerful, it's hard to move it. And that's this energy that we're in right now, right? We've got all this mud, and it's like slogging through mud sometimes to do the things that you know will make you feel so much better. So imagine if you know that you are wanting to get to the gym. You want to be moving because you know that you need to move. And during this time of year, this is a great time of year to get moving. And just getting out the door is tough. Okay. So you may need to do some little techniques. A lot of times with my clients, I'll just say, just get to the gym, get your clothes on, go there. And then if after you're there for 5 minutes, you really hate it, then leave, but just get there. And then once you're there and you start moving, it's almost like you're melting even more ice, heating it up, and then it's just in the air and you're not being weighed down anymore. So you're getting through that barrier. And that's what this energy can really feel like. It can just feel overwhelming, especially if kapha people, such as myself, I've got a lot of kapha, we can have anxious thoughts. We can feel sad or depressed. And during this season, those things are getting a little bit exacerbated, right? Because the energy that is surrounding us, your environment that's surrounding you, is even more of that. So the idea with Ayurveda and with this spring transition is to really do things that you know are going to help you feel more balanced and more nourished. Small things. Always keep them small so that they're doable. It's not always easy. Like I said, you might not want to go to the gym, but once you just say, okay, well, if I get there and I really don't want to be here, I can leave. Great. Once I make sure that I have my bag packed and it's in the car for after work, great. You want to make sure it's simple and then get there. Right. So with this energy, being really aware of that, this is what happens during every spring transition. Every time we're here, having that awareness really helps you go, oh, I'm feeling in a funk. It's spring. Okay. I need to do something to shake myself out of it. This is even more important than with other seasons, even more important than with the fall transition or the summer transition, because this transition, there is that inertia. And so you really do actually want to shake yourself up and get yourself going, because the energy is stagnant here because it's sitting there, right? This water, again, I'm just going to use this idea of earth and water coming together for mud. Like that is like heavy, thick, and it needs time. There's this time piece. It needs time for the water to really get down into the earth. And so you can wait to feel better after everything, the energy around you has changed, or you're going to have to mix up your routine to help you bring the balance, right? Because if the energy is too much for what you're already experiencing, then you've got to do something during this time to make a switch. Now, if you're watching this, whether you're watching it live or on replay, let me know if this is starting to make sense and how you may see it in your own life. I would be really interested to know, because maybe you see it in ways that we can elaborate on. That would be really interesting, right? Okay, so if we have the spring energy that can be really heavy, what are the tendencies going to be? Because it's compounding, right? The tendencies are in winter, what were we nourishing ourselves with? We were nourishing ourselves with really good, comfy, heavier foods in winter. That's what's available seasonally, right? Maybe there's more potatoes, sweet potatoes, root vegetables, right? Hearty, right? And in a way, you're keeping on an extra layer of fat to like hold on. Again, seasonally, if we think about this seasonally and eating seasonally, you're holding on, keeping yourself warm, and also keeping yourself well nourished during a time where there's just not a lot of different kinds of foods available. Obviously, we have access to everything nowadays. Our bodies are not as evolved as we are. So we can go to the grocery store and get anything we want. But if we think about the energetics and the seasonal and what's going on with the earth, what's available? Not all that much. Anything that you had stored in reserves, lots of root vegetables, maybe some dried meats, right? So you're eating these heavy things to tide you over till the spring. And then when the spring comes, energetically, like we're still wanting to eat those same kinds of foods. We're still wanting that. It just feels cozy. And the energy of kapha is, oh, I just want to make things so cozy. If you know a kapha person, not only are they very loyal, very kind, they're the ones that are always bringing the baked goods or wanting to make you a meal or bringing the best thing at the potluck because they want you to be nourished. So when you're feeling like lethargic, when you're feeling heavy, when your digestion is off during the seasonal change, especially kapha season, you want to lighten things up, which again will be hard, a little harder. I'm not going to say hard, okay? Because we all know that it feels hard, right? But you want to make a choice that will help you lighten yourself up. And what are we talking about? Like drinking soups, having broths, allowing yourself nice warm water, nice teas, drinking a lot of good fluids that are warm, because the warmth of the fluid has a heating effect, which will keep things moving. If we have a bunch of cold things on top of everything, it's not going anywhere. Again, think of it as that layer of ice on the top that we're just still dealing with. For those of us who are in the Midwest or in colder places, we're still dealing with all this snow and ice and just want to see it go away, right? The same idea with the seasonal transition in our bodies. We have to make a choice to melt that energy within us to bring about some balance. Okay, so what are some things that we could do besides broths and stews and soups, right? We could start eating some lighter grains. That would be really good. Maybe some amaranth, maybe a little bit of quinoa, a lighter grain mixed up in some sort of, I want to say like a bowl, right? A bowl where you have your different things. So it's not just, we're just not shooting right to full on salads. We need to maybe warm things up, maybe some warm veggies that you've roasted or sauteed a little lightly in some, soup stock or a little bit of water. But this is what's going to do to help you bring about balance. Now, it's not only diet. If diet feels really hard, don't worry. Again, there's small little lifestyle switches that you can do to help bring about that balance. But the most important thing that I would say you want to think about is if you're noticing that there is heavy, intense feelings and there's this inertia that you're not wanting to move as much as usual, or alternatively, or both, you could be experiencing both. There is this sense, kapha has this way of being really attached. Like, I like to eat the thing I like to eat. I want to eat the same thing every single day. Breaking up that attachment, that is also a great way to break up the stagnant energy. Because if we are so attached, like let's say I'm attached to a certain way of feeling, let's say I have those heavy feelings. Let's say it's either depression or the anxiety or just general sadness. And I just allow myself to keep playing in those feelings. Like, yes, it's awful. Yes. You create more of that, right? So with kapha and its desire to be attached and to relate to that thing, you want to be like, no, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not thinking that anymore. I'm not journaling about that anymore. I'm not talking to everybody at the water cooler about that anymore. No, I'm done. Okay. So when you think about that, I want you to think about interrupting patterns. And that's also going to be super beneficial to this seasonal transition to this heavier kapha energy, which again, it's brilliant energy for some of us. Some of us are going to feel probably the best we've ever felt during the year in the spring. And it might be because we're drier. If we're drier, we tend to be more dry. Then this heavy, the mucus, the water, the oiliness of what kapha brings to the table, that's actually going to be feeling really good in my body. But not everybody is usually there because generally most of us just kind of live very imbalanced, not only with the seasons, but with life. We live these very different lives from what we used to. And even back then, when this particular form of medicine was created, people still struggled, right? And we still struggle with our attachments. We still struggle with, who are we? We still struggle with certain physical and mental and emotional ailments. And so Ayurveda has always been there to help support you and then to help identify times that can be a little bit more difficult. So if you found this remotely interesting, let me know. Again, hashtag live or hashtag replay. And if you want to learn more about how to stay balanced in your body and through different seasonal transitions, then please reach out. So you can reach out to me through a DM here or make a comment below. All right. So good to see you. Okay. Bye.